Race 1 of the 2021 Narrows Series was hosted by Strangford Sailing Club, with the traditional starting line in the bay between Audley's Castle and Castle Ward. With about 90 seconds to go, the majority of the fleet was jostling for position on the Strangford side of the start line. GTR was the first to show their hand, breaking away from the pack of the boats, deploying their code 0 and sailing towards the pin end of the line. For many, this may have seemed like an unwise decision because they were actually sailing directly away from the first mark. Juno was the other boat that had selected the pin end of the line, trying to get out to the tide as fast as possible. GTR squeezed them out, forcing them into a roundup and then a quick jibe. They slotted in second, with the Basquiat setting their kite in third. GTR continued to sail directly away from the first mark, taking a gamble to get out into the strongest part of the tide. The furl, subsequent jibe, and then set was not the easiest move to complete, as the apparent wind was effectively zero, with the tide racing at 6 or 7 knots, which was about the same as the breeze strength. With the kite up and fully forward due to the apparent wind created by the tide that was pushing GTR, Juno and Le Basquiat up into the main part of the loch. Le Basquiat, Juno and GTR built out a 2 to 3 minute lead by taking the decision to sail the additional distance. About 3/4 of the way to Mark 2, the breeze dropped off and it turned into a drifting match. GTR had stayed to leeward, trying to see if the breeze would come into the west. Sadly for them, it filled back in from Portaferry. It resulted in the chasing pack running down the leaders, with the fleet condensing at a tight rounding of Mark 2. GTR went for the early drop, choosing to deploy the code 0 for the reach across to Mark 5. This allowed Animal to race up the outside with a lovely windward float drop, keeping their speed and briefly taking the lead.
No problem, take it off, quickly take it off, quickly take it off, there.
With the jibe completed, GTR rounded up and quickly deployed the code 0, giving them enough acceleration to just slip back past Animal, who was safely to leeward. As GTR built a solid lead on the way to Mark 5, the key moment of the race happened in the rearview mirror. Animal was staying close to GTR, sailing a direct line to Mark 5, and probably was well in front at this stage on handicap. The key moment came as HighJacker deployed their code 0, racing through to leeward and into a solid second place over the water, translated to a lead on corrected time at this stage of the race. With the breeze now filled in from the east, it was time for jib up and furl of the code 0 as we raced into Mark 5.
Get ready to furl, guys.
After surrounding Mark V, it became a drag race with a straight leg to the eastern side of the Narrows. All boats trying to get out of the onrushing tide that was still flowing in at a rate of knots. GTR put the bow down, stretching out quite a big lead on this leg. The remainder of the race turned into a follow the leader, and due to the extended time sitting still in the glass out, they couldn't stretch out a big enough lead, leaving HighJacker to take the first race in the series, narrowly beating Animal. The IRC handicap system proved its value again, with just 40 seconds between the first three boats.